Hey, and welcome back to the iLife Academy Coaching Podcast. This is Abdul Shahid, and in this week's episode, I'm going to be talking to you about something that most certainly affects your life, and that is trust, reliance, faith, relationships. I mean, hey, that just about sums up life, right? So, yep, it does actually. So let me ask you a question. Because this is going to be super relevant to you. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. If, you're a doctor, you're a homeschooling mother, you're a professional business executive, you're a whatever you are you, right? This affects you. Now, let me ask you a question. What if you could have complete reliance and faith that you'd be okay? What if you had that complete reliance and faith that you'd be okay? Now, here's the thing. You might be thinking right now, well, actually, I'm okay. And that's probably true, right? Like, everyone's okay. Everyone's okay in some parts of their life. Now, here's the question. What's the challenge in your life? What's the area in your life that you feel challenged in? Now, if you think about that, I'm pretty sure, like most of the time, like I could be wrong, right? Like I'm human, but it usually comes back to reliance, trust, faith, and or relationships. You see, feeling connected to your Creator, the all-merciful, the all-loving, has its benefits. And one of the most important of those is that we want to feel secure. Because in the face of insecurity, nothing feels right, even when it is right. That's the crazy thing about it. Nothing feels right, even if it is right. So it's important to understand that your most important reliance factor is that security and having faith and trust in the Almighty is so important beyond what most people think. I mean, people talk about Tawakul. People talk about this. They throw this word around like it's a sure thing. But I can tell you, like from experience, working with people, coaching people, whether it's intervention therapy type stuff or whatever it is, like business people, senior executives, like medical professionals, clinicians, therapists, like it doesn't matter what they are. Like everyone seems to have some sort of struggle with this word, reliance and trust. Now, it may not be in every single area of your life, but in some areas, no doubt, like many people that suffer, especially those who suffer from this, these emotional ups and downs, or in other words, emotional turmoil. Like people who suffer from these things, they have these challenges, right? Trust and faith and reliance, feeling that they could be, they're going to be okay. That feeling is missing a lot of the times, right? And what could be worse than having to have constant emotional highs and lows that you can't control? You see, many of us feel that we do trust in the wisdom of the Creator. We feel that, right? We do trust in the wisdom of the Creator. We do trust that we'd be okay. Many of us feel that. But when it comes down to the challenges with your husband or your wife, be it your livelihood, your job, the economic, challenges that we're currently seeing, be it the struggle that you have with yourself. And the fact is, that's a big one, right? That's a big one. Whatever the challenge, we feel we can't handle it. we don't always articulate that. We don't even say it, and sometimes we don't even think it. But many a times we feel it. We feel it, and I, like, imagine this. I tell myself I can do this, but then when I go into one of those lows, I could be out for days, if not weeks, where I can't seem to pick myself up and get myself out of it. I mean, have you experienced that? Because many of the people that I work with, many of the people that I talk to, like, they experience these sorts of lows that last for a long time, regardless of, what kind of professional they are. Even if they're in the medical profession, even if they're in the psychological, like they're psychological specialists, if you like. Right? So this makes sense at times, and others, it makes sense at times, and other times it seems like, it's a complete lie. We don't say that, but it's in our minds. These thoughts go through our minds, right? And you feel like you trust no one, and that you struggle with that internal feeling of being alone, not knowing how to handle it. And here's what I've experienced through working with, many professionals, many individuals who have, a high level of success in their life, in terms of their careers. Many of them, who are senior executives, professionals at the top of their game, like leaders in their field. And they are such producers, such go-getters, and they work real hard. But even then, even with all the success in the careers, they suffer these emotional challenges. The lows that we find ourselves in. No one knows it, and no one can even see it except those who are close to them. Because what I've seen, and like personal experience, as well as my experience with other people, is that those sorts of people, the high producers, the productive people, whatever you want to call them, right? They're busy in, they put up this facade. Like everyone else outside, they go to work. Like you go to work, you go into the world, and you put up this happy-go-lucky face. And no one sees a thing. No one can even see or sense that deep sense of, that feeling of being unsettled or, being unhappy, right? Like people don't even like to admit that they are unhappy. So you come home, like you go out to the world, and the world sees this happy-go-lucky face, right? Everything is cool, no problem. However, when you come home, you just put away that facade, because you don't have to now put on this face anymore. You can just be yourself. But when you are just being yourself, you find that you're being challenged in your relationships with your husband or your wife. You're being challenged with your children. You're being challenged with your own mind. And this is pretty typical. It's a typical situation I've seen amongst, high achievers, amongst leaders, amongst people who are doing well in some areas of their lives. You see, they are no doubt, successful. They've achieved great success in some areas of their life, whether it's career, financial, whatever it is, right? But, on the same front, they're actually suffering themselves. And no one knows it. And they feel alone because of it. So we go out. And look, I say they, but look, it's really very much about you and I. Like, I know that feeling. Like, I'm talking from experience. And I'm just saying that, we're all on different paths in our lives, but we are all human. It's human nature. It's a human experience. So you're not alone. Like, even when you feel like you are. So look, we go out looking for that security. We find it temporarily in places that we can't maintain. And look, that is a fact. We find it temporarily. And you find it for a little while and it's okay and everything's great, but you find it difficult to maintain. And then we're constantly in a state of fear that we're about to lose it. And we're not going to be able to maintain that sense of security, the sense of peace, the sense of inner tranquility. And then all of a sudden, we suffer in trying to maintain it. You see, here's the challenge. This is, I talk about faith and trust and relationships, all this stuff, but here's the thing. You see, the most problems that I've seen, they come back to relationship problems. And if you're wondering what is the connection, this is it. It is either a problem in your relationship with your Creator, or it's a relationship problem with people in your lives. Like people in your life, and look, even worse than that, the third one is that it's a relationship problem with yourself. And that's the one that people can't seem to understand and get their heads around. So ask yourself, what if you could have a relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that transforms your life? I mean, it would absolutely do that, with no doubt. But you're probably wondering, as many of the people I work with wonder, well, I'm doing the best that I can. I'm trying to do the things that are, that are good, that are pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But then, why do I feel these challenges? I'm doing the best I can. Why do I feel these challenges? Why is my life so difficult? Or why do I feel like I can't handle it? And here's the thing. The answer to your question, the answer to that thought that's running through your mind, is right there in the thought, in the question that you're asking yourself. What do you think could be wrong in your relationship? You feel you can't handle it. Just listen to those words. You feel you can't handle it. And that doesn't mean you can't handle it, but you do feel that. And you feel it's not possible. You feel it's not possible to get through this. So I want you to ask yourself, haven't you got through it in the past? When you feel like you can't handle it and you feel like you can't get through this, ask yourself the question, haven't I got through this in the past? Are you here right now? Do you feel you can trust the one who controls your life and everything in it? You see, there is a power beyond this world, beyond this creation, beyond your imagination, that controls all of it. Do you know and believe there is hope? And notice I said, do you know and believe there is hope? Because the challenge that most people are having is that either they don't know, or if they know, they don't believe it. That's a fact. Like, that's what's going on. Like, people don't believe it. And see, if you don't believe that there is light at the end of the tunnel, you don't believe that it's possible, you're not going to feel too good. You're not going to feel okay. And all you have to do is decide to believe that it can happen. And you will see it happening. If you've been in this kind of thinking, the kind of thinking where, I don't see how, or, I can't see the light at the end of the tunnel, you will struggle to believe it. And here's the thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allah says, categorically that whoever has trust and reliance, then He will suffice them. وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. Whoever has trust and reliance, He will suffice them. You'll be enough for them. And here's the thing, enough is not a good translation. And even suffice is probably not a good translation. Let me give you a fuller meaning, closer to the truth of what this means. Whoever trusts and believes, He will be everything for you. If you trust and believe, He will be everything for you. Azza wa Jal. See, that's the key. That's the key. If you have that, you have everything, right? But here we go. Like relationships with other people. This is the big one that I see a lot, right? Relationships with other people, whether it's with your husband, whether it's with your wife, whether it's with your boss, your neighbor, your children, your parents. Doesn't matter who it is. Relationships with other people is a struggle for anyone and everyone who feels life is too difficult. They don't feel secure in their emotional state, and they will inevitably feel insecure as a result of that. And as a result of that, like relationships will suffer. Like imagine this, like you're not feeling secure, you're not feeling okay in your relationship with someone. If you're not feeling okay in your relationship with someone, then your relationship will suffer. Even if your relationship from the other side, if your relationship with your husband or your wife or your whoever it is, right? Like they're feeling like everything's fine, everything's hunky-dory, no problem. Let's just chill, let's just go do stuff. And you're like, I don't trust you. You're like, oh, I don't know if you're going to follow through. I don't know if you're, what you mean by that. I don't, you take everything that comes from this person through the lens of insecurity. You're not going to trust them. You're not going to have faith in that relationship with them, right? And because you put all your, because you pin your emotions or your feelings on that relationship, and then you're not feeling secure in that relationship, you're going to create problems. You're not going to even realize it. And you may come across like an ice queen or king, like cold, hard on the surface, and unapproachable. And that would certainly impact your relationship. And you could be doing that simply because you're trying to maintain yourself. You're trying to preserve yourself. You're trying to be okay. So you're doing that to, keep yourself sane. But in doing that, it affects your relationships. No doubt. And I've seen this over and over again. Like, we all experience it. I say I've seen it. I've seen it in my own life. Like we humans, we have this experience. And here you go. You might actually come across actually the complete opposite. You may not be that ice queen. You may not be that person that's, coming across like the hard person that, people can't get through to. You may actually come across as being like really like into the person that you're trying to have this relationship with, right? And you become really needy, like you become really vulnerable. And what happens then is that people will feel the burden of that need, right? And if these people or this person in your life is feeling themselves, if they feel themselves, even though that you can't see it, if they feel needy themselves and they feel like they're missing something, then your neediness will kind of repel them. Not because they don't want to help you, they don't want to connect with you, not because they don't want to have some sort of connection or relationship with you, but because they will feel they can't handle you, they can't help you, because in their mind they're thinking, how can I help you when I can't help myself? I'm struggling with that myself, and then you're asking me of the same thing, and I can't give it to myself. How can I give it to you? Right? So they, the person that you're having this, your husband or your wife or your child or whatever, like your parent, like they may be feeling like they can't manage themselves. And this is very normal. This is very common. So I want you to understand this is very common. This isn't something that's specific to just you and, your relationships. Like a lot of people have this struggle. And you see, the ultimate truth is people will struggle in their relationships because they feel the burden of each other's emotional needs. And here's the thing. Here's a solution. Like, here's a good solution. One that will give you what you need. Turn back to Al-Wadud, Ar-Rahman. Turn back to the one who is eternally loving. And that will give you the security that you need. That will make you feel what you need. And whoever has that reliance and trust will have their needs fulfilled, which will completely change the dynamics of your relationship with other people. Because if you're completely fulfilled, and then you have a relationship, you don't need anything from that relationship, which makes that relationship much easier. And so here, getting on to the last thing, look, the type of relationship that a lot of people struggle with is the one with themselves. That's a bit annoying, isn't it? That's just telling me I need to wrap up. So I'm not going to wrap up because I wanted to talk to you about this, because look, people struggle with themselves and they wonder why they don't believe in themselves. What's wrong with me? Why is this happening to me? They don't trust themselves. A lot of people, they don't trust themselves. Like, we don't trust ourselves. Let's bring it home, right? Why do we have a problem even saying that we like ourselves, let alone love ourselves? When I ask this question to people, and I ask my clients this question, right? Do you love yourself? And that is such an uncomfortable question for so many people. Like, I want you to think about this. Can you sit down and write down why you love yourself? What do you appreciate about yourself? Try it. Stop this recording right now and try and write something about that and see how you feel. I mean, hey, you gotta at least like yourself, right? I know this is a really sensitive topic, and it really hurts to even think about it for many of us, right? Because we struggle with this. So let me give you an easy way out of this. Once again, وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ, right? Turn back. Turn to the one who takes care of you and has always loved you. Al-Wadud. You see, the truth is, in the fact that you are alive and functioning. You have people that you can still connect to, even when you feel you can't. You see, one of the challenges is, you feel like you can't love yourself. But you can, absolutely. Or at least you can start by liking you. Like, you don't have to tell anyone, but you can do it. Whatever your relationship challenge, it's all based on how secure or insecure you feel. And I hope this rings true in your mind. Because if it does, I suggest that you take a second to go over this again. I guess it's going to take more than a second, right? But have a second listen. Have a second read. Allow your mind to just sit with this information. See, maybe it has the potential to change your life. But right now you can't see it. Maybe you just don't see it right now because you're in some sort of emotional state of mind that's not conducive to you seeing things clearly. Come back and listen to this with a clear mind. I guarantee you will hear and see a different message when your mind is clear. And you see, what I've shared with you is actually enough to change your life if you fully understood it. And the truth is, if you can get this, as short as it is, inshaAllah, it will make all the difference. I have no doubt in that. Because it is based on وَمَن يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ. And whoever has that trust and reliance in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will suffice you. He will be everything you could possibly need. So I'm going to leave you on that. And if you want to find me, you can find me on QuranicConnection.tv. Until the next segment. Assalamu alaikum.